And I'm Phoebe. My name is Phoebe, and I am a feminist, a women rights activist, and a gender research fellow currently doing research together with Chiang Mai University. And I will be acting as a moderator for this session. And first of all, I really want to appreciate 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝗶𝗿 feminist team for organizing such amazing and inspiring panel discussion. And I am really honored to be a part of this inspiring and inclusive panel discussion together with amazing panelists from different backgrounds. So first, let me introduce to our amazing panelists. First of all, we have Saudia Dani. So she is a female moral feminist and a developmental practitioner at Zamboanga City from Philippines. She is also the executive director of Center for Youth Networking and Development Initiatives, which she established together with her fellow young leaders of Zamboanga City. And also, by profession, she is a teacher who believes that education should not be confined in all the four corners of classroom. She is an advocate of social justice, nonviolent resistance, and gender equality movements, participatory citizenship, youth empowerment, and environmental conservation. She is also the recipient of the first Zamboanga Excellency Award as a Mentor of Excellence by the city government of Zamboanga for her efforts in the communities. So now we have another amazing speaker who is 𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘓. 𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘓 is a Rohingya feminist, an author, a poet, and social justice activist. 𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘓 and her family have fled to Thailand in 1995 when she was just a child, and she remained as a refugee until she moved to Canada in 2011. And 𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘓, she served as a president of the Rohingya Human Rights Network from 2018 to 2020. And it is a non-profit group led by activists across Canada to advocate and raise public awareness of the Rohingya genocide issues. She is a board member of the ASEAN Burma Board for 1 year and effective from the September 2022. And also, she is a board member of U.S. Campaign Burma, as well as a member of the steering committee in the Bridges Myanmar Youth Dialogue project. So among the projects, she has worked on the Time to Act Rohingya Voices exhibition, the Time to Act Rohingya Voices exhibition with the Canadian Canadian Museum for the Human Rights and the Genocide Learning Tool with the Montreal Holocaust Museum. Her poetry is established in the anthology I Am a Rohingya. So 𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘓 recently published a children's book called 𝘕𝘊𝘲 and the Magical Ring, which encapsulates the experience of the children living in the camps after fleeing a 2017 genocide campaign in Myanmar. In 2021, she was named on the Feminist 100, the Gender Security Project list of 100 women from the Global South, and working in a foreign policy, peace building, law, activism, and development. And also so we have a very amazing panelist, 𝘕𝘕𝘕𝘓. And also another panelist is 𝘕𝘠𝘠. 𝘕𝘠𝘠 is now based in London. He is a feminist and independent analyst with over 18 years of working experience in the human rights and democracy in Myanmar. His research interests include majoritarian nationalism, gender-based violence, and also legal frameworks. So let's start. So first of all, today we are going to discuss about different experience and different barriers and challenges we have overcome in order to achieve what we are doing right now, what we have achieved right now, and what we are doing right now. So the first question is that we usually assume that menstruation is just a woman issue. So what is your thought on that? What are your thoughts on that? Any one of you can start.
I think
Sal, would you like to initiate? Yeah, yes, please. Yes, Min.
My apologies. I thought no one was going, so let me just go first. I think that when we think about menstruation, sometimes people actually just focus on, the obvious answer when we think in terms of what actually means, menstrual justice. And yes, it does not just involve women, it actually involves everybody. We can see, and I'm going to steer a little bit away from the menstruation as a biological system that women and trans men, or anyone else who have uterus would actually go through month to month. It's also something that actually goes on to build an economy. Something that is called pink tax is something that is applied to very specifically menstrual products and products that are about reproductive health of women and those who menstruate. So it's not just about women that are actually menstruating. It's also how the economy, how the system and the structure of patriarchy is built to marginalize women, to keep us poor, because things like menstrual poverty exist as well. For most of the parts in the world, menstruation is still something that is very, very costly. Women have to pay in order to buy menstrual products. Those who menstruate have to buy products in order to, not soil themselves. Those who actually don't have the means would have to find ways to innovate and use, other materials to actually stop them from, bleeding everywhere. And that's just unfair that those who menstruate don't actually get the access to resources and materials that would actually help them, through something that they don't have a choice over. It is a biological thing that they have to go through every month. So it is everyone's problem in that sense, that it goes on to build economy. It goes on to actually help a lot of people make a lot of money.
Right, so you are mentioning that menstruation, based on menstruation, the capitalist culture has been taking advantage of us. So regarding the resources and assets, we will get back to you in next question. And then now I would like to give a chance to Sal or 𝘕𝘠𝘠 to answer this question.
Okay, yeah. The question was, menstruation is only a woman issue and how it can actually affect other genders. Well, it is really important for us to talk about it because it is not only the women who are affected by menstruation, and periods. Just like what Yasmin said a while ago, it could also impact family. We have the smaller unit of the society, which is the family. And for an instance, if the mother is having a problem with menstruation, she has not access to any menstrual, like for example, pads or access to clean water and all of those stuff, the family is basically affected. The husband, and so on and so forth. So we have to look at it at a very basic unit, and at the bigger picture, we can also see that women are also part of the workforce. And if we are not going to talk about menstrual justice, menstrual issues, and we were just going to like label it as a women issue without even considering the fact that we are in one way or other genders are also affected, then we are living a sector behind, and not just that, we are also leaving a part of work that has in and development.
Thank you, Sal. 𝗕𝗿𝗄, did you have any says on this?
Yes, I want to say a few things. First of all, I agree with what Yasmin said, and also Sal said. It is not only about women, it's also about, I mean, everyone, I mean, also including men. Of course, it's very important because, first of all, if there is no menstruation, we wouldn't even be here by biological cycle. But like Yasmin said, I mean, you know, it's not only about, for example, in developed countries like Asia or Africa, but you can still see in Western countries, and it's directly also linked with capitalism. For example, where I live in London and where I studied here, for example, you can count by, let's say, less than 10 fingers that universities and colleges offer a free menstrual pad or tampons, you know, for women. You know, otherwise but some university they started doing it, but in general, you know, it's basically a woman issue. And when you talk about this, men basically just in general just like don't really care, you know, like can be bothered, this kind of attitude. So it is really important. It's not only about women, it's all about everyone. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Right, thank you. 𝗕𝗿 has also mentioned about capitalist culture, and Sal has also mentioned it's related to family well-being and also a part of the workforce as for the menstruators. So continuing to what 𝗕𝗿 has mentioned, what he has experienced in London, like they provide a free menstrual pads in the public toilet of the university or public spaces. So my next question is that how each of our panelists have experienced different. We know that we are all from different culture background, and also we are now located in different countries. So I would like you to compare and analyze how different it is, the practice of menstruation or the taboos or the cultural perception of menstruation from where you have come, and also from where you are right now, like from different countries. Yes. Anyone?
Ladies first, please.
Okay, I'll take it. Yes, in my country, it is viewed as dirty and as some kind of shameful. It's like as if or for instance, if you had a period and somebody like saw it, it's like you are showcasing your vagina to the public. So that's how it is to be like. But in terms of participation or something, like if you're allowed to touch guys, if you have menstruation, it's okay with us. But it is also being affected by what religion you are belonging to. For instance, if you are a Roman Catholic, um, you are a Roman Catholic, then basically you can go to church even if you have menstruation. But for Muslims like us, we can't pray with our menstruation. We can't fast, and sometimes we are not even allowed to like cook food for a certain rites. Yeah. For example, for funeral rites, there are the do's and don'ts for menstruators. and we have to take it to the account, or else we might be like not practicing the right thing. Yeah. And yes, it is also deemed as, you know, as a drama, like that. Yeah. Most of the time, menstruation is stereotyped with the mood swings of women. Okay, these mood swings are being looked at by men as if it is just a drama. You know, it's just like we're just making it up, something like that. Because most of the men that yeah, even among my circles, my progressive circles, they are not really aware of what women are going through during menstruation. So like, you know, they don't have any idea. So like for them, it's just like an act. Yeah, and something like a defect, rather than understanding that it is a health issue. Because, you know, women are changing hormones, or like, yeah, all the stuff that including health. So there are few people who are also talking about this stuff. There are few people who advocate for this, because, you know, it is not a menstrual justice does not end when you provide menstrual pads to the menstruators, you know. So it's because of this conception that talking about menstruation, it is related to the reproductive part of the women. So it hinders us to discuss more about the health issue, about the labor, about the in general social issue in the lens of their feminist perspective. So
So thank you, Sal. This is a very interesting discussion about your culture and how have you faced the barriers being a woman and menstruator. And then I'm really sad to know how people in your community assume menstruation as not as a health issues, but as a something extra burden. I want to give the floor to 𝘰𝘕𝑚𝗀𝘀 to compare and analyze how it is different from your experience in your culture.
Thank you, Phoebe. I think my experience is not very different from Sal, but it differs in a sense that as I've become a little bit more aware and have been in the feminist circle for a while, the past 6 years have taught me a lot about colonization and purity culture. And that comes from, you know, a lot of source of, you know, justification for imperialism or for violence of colonization. And part of it is controlling women's body. And now I'm focusing on women's body just because at the time, you know, women, a lot of times actually, even today, women's body are often used as a site of struggle in order to colonize, in order to dispossess, in order to, you know, perpetrate violence against a group of people, against, you know, an indigenous group of people, very specifically, to take away the land, to, you know, wage wars, to actually overpower a group of people. And part of it is creating a narrative around menstruation, around women being a lesser than a group of people, or those who menstruate as a lesser than group of people, because, you know, in Judeo-Christian understanding, there is this notion or myth of Eve, you know, swallowing the apples, right? And then her eating the apples before Adam, making her menstruate, something along that line, which actually does not exist in Islam. But for some strange reason, we've adopted it too. And it has become sort of something that is continuously perpetuating the idea that women or those who menstruate are lesser than, are being punished by God, are being punished for being alive, which is so strange, because human lives are actually respected in a lot of different ways by a lot of religions as a sanctity, as something sacred. And even though we have teachings that are passed on to us by the teachings that are not necessarily influenced by the culture or colonization or the purity culture, that focuses on how sacred our bodies are, how sacred the system or the ways our bodies work. But then because of this process of colonization and means of violence that are perpetrated against us, we become so ignorant of the understanding of how human body works and how women are supposed to be, respected, and those who menstruate are just as sacred as others. So it shows that, a society that is lacking in understanding of menstrual health or reproductive health is also a society that is also lacking in the understanding of women and gender identities. And that society does not do well with progress. If it actually, make any progress, it does not include everybody. And so within Rohingya community, the things that are talked about by 𝗕𝗍, it's very similar, but a lot of times, yes, women are actually deemed as dirty if they're going through, their cycle. And it goes to defy the rules or the things that are set by religion itself. The fact that we couldn't pray is not because we're dirty, but then, it sort of get misinterpreted through this purity culture lens framework. But as women now are actually taking charge and becoming more of a prominent or taking up more prominent roles in the society, even in the Rohingya community, because, violence have been, well, established in our religion, in our region or in the Rohingya community by the junta and by other actors for decades. Women are the only one kept alive. And unfortunately, our reproductive health or our system of reproduction have also been used and weaponized to basically, to become the means of genocidal process, which is called genocidal rape, to end the bloodline of Rohingya. And so all of these things goes back to how people basically view women as a means to produce life, but at the same time, don't give us sacred, don't identify us as sacred to be able to actually create life, through menstruation, through having this cycle, through having this biological system. And so I think the struggle, apart from all these stigma that comes with menstruation, it also goes on to basically create barriers after barriers and create this label, or becomes a target on our back when violence are perpetrated.
I would like to say a few things.
Thank
First
you.
of all, yeah, thank you, Yasmin. Sorry. First of all, I was trying to give you an applause, not raising hands, but as for me, I'm not sure how to use emoji in Zoom, so I just thought like I was raising hands. And second, I'm trying to speak very slowly because as a fast speaker, so if there is anything that you haven't heard, sorry, clearly, just let me know. Yeah. So a few things to touch base on, right? For example, it's not really related with the menstrual, but same thing with how woman body, it's walking, and then most men in general, they're not aware of that. It's being ignorant. For example, there is this comparison, right? For a woman, giving birth is as equal to for a man get punched or kick in genitalia, that kind of thing. But so men usually make this joke that we were not gonna get kicked again. We'll try our best to not to get us kicked again, for example. But women just keep giving birth, for example. But it's just that it shows how ignorant that they don't have no idea about human body, for example, because as far as I understand, and also the advisor, also there is a medical doctor. Correct me if I am wrong. As far as I understand, for a woman after delivery give birth, because there's certain like in body that just basically introduce that they basically forget the pain. That's why they have now the children again. That's as simple as that. So if you actually pay attention and then study or read up, you will know. But I will say 9 out of 10 men have no idea about that. They keep making this insensitive joke when it comes down to woman body. And same thing with the menstruation as well. For example, they will just say not try to understand, and also how human body works. But for example, they will just say like, oh yeah, the person is doing this because it's their period time. It's very, very ignorant. Instead of trying to understand your friends, like your female friends, your counterparts, your family, like everyone. But they just basically just ignore. I mean, being ignorant. So that's one thing. And second thing regarding coming from the culture, yes, I'm not talking about any other culture. I mean, for example, Western culture, there are some, I mean, I will say more acceptance than where I came from. So like Yasmin and Sao mentioned it. Yes, in culture, same thing. There are some people still saying, especially conservative views, saying that when a woman on period, it's not very, how can I say, like clean. Like for example, not allowed in religious building. It's hard to, I mean, it's a huge topic if I have to go into that. So I'm not going to huge topic regarding whether it is religious, like Buddha said it or not, but mostly it's the certain people just said it. Like, for example, this argument still going on, but it's a lot open in the last 10 years, I will say, but still ongoing. And I would like to say, quote a bit of an example from a friend of mine here living in the UK. We're talking about this issue, and when last year when they started about this 𝗕𝗿𝗏 campaign, you put a 𝗕𝗿𝗏 in your head as solidarity, but of course some people claim that just because you put 𝗕𝗿𝗏 as a man on your head, it's not going to change anything. Well, I know that, but it's a symbolic stand with people. And a friend of mine reached out to me saying that, thank you for doing this as a Myanmar person. I was like, well, it's solidarity, and it's the least I can do. So she shared her story that actually also living in the UK and for many generations, she had problems in the past with her boyfriends and husband, which even led to kind of like a separation because she somehow washed together with her period 𝗕𝗿𝗏 and things together. So the person said that like because of that, it's just like something like, for example, the person, the husband or the partner or whoever got bad luck and then just getting like lost his job. So that led to the kind of thing. So although it's very important that although if you're in different culture, Western country, for example, living there are still women facing this issue. The same thing with my African friends and females living in France, also in Germany, in certain culture as well. It's still seen as a taboo, that same purity issue, that you're not clean, So yeah, that's my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sao, Uller, and Min. According to our conversation, I have found out that there has been still misunderstanding or lack of understanding about menstruation in every culture, in our culture, even though if we are in different countries. And also, I found out very sad that it is our woman body and then menstruation is used as a weapon to take over power. And also we found out that in every culture there has been ignorant on our the issues of menstruation. And also in order to conclude, it's also like, even if it is different, if we are different in culture, we have one common limitations or barriers, that the barriers still exist in every culture. So after talking about the barriers we have experienced in our own culture, I would like to ask whether if you have ever experienced individually any kind of discrimination or limitation or barriers in your daily life because you are a menstruator. For Gomin as a non-menstruator, like, have you ever experienced or heard any of your friends, menstruator friends, sisters, relatives ever face in their daily lives? Yes.
I mean, I was thinking about saying this at the last recommendation, because I mean, I will say a bit and then maybe put it more later. So I was in Sisters to Sisters discussion on menstruation a few months ago. And one of the recommendation question raised was that this thing that women should get a day off or 2 days off when they menstruate, right? So ideally, I mean, how can I say? Let's say I agree, kind of agree, but at the same time, you know, like it's also basically just same thing that the approach that not understanding women. For example, after that thing, I talk with my loved ones and also female friends, you know, like a close one as well. It's basically it comes down to the point, the fact that like if you actually give women every month like a 1 day leave for during the period, it will just basically lead to the longer problems. You know, like for example, when your hiring process, like definitely people, the companies, you know, the owner, the employers will putting as a like a, you know, like as a negative impact hiring women and men, for example, if that thing actually exists, but set it by law by the government, you know. So I would say that that's clearly a huge setback. You know, for example, you have to give 12 days of leave a year hiring women, when in production sectors, when men, we don't have to do that, right? As always, we all know this is the same. The whole capital structure is just mostly run by men in general, you know. So there'll be a serious side effect as well. So, and I'll talk more about it at the end. So that's clearly, I'm not saying that it's the discrimination does not exist right now, but it's highly existed since, you know, like we still live in a sexist world. So that I will say. Yes. Thank you very much.
Yes, and Miss Ula, would you like to talk?
So there are a few different scenarios that I can give you, and all of them to this day kind of brought embarrassment to me, and it's something I have to work on. It's an internal problem, but it's something that was carved deep into my consciousness when I was younger. So I grew up in Thailand, but you know, Thailand and Burmese culture are pretty similar in a lot of sense. And while I was growing up, which is a while ago, the very first experience of me being in school with, you know, in co-ed school, where young boys were also, you know, basically seated close to us. Sex ed was not something that was taken very seriously in a lot of educational institutions. And I think there has been a lot of change and progress nowadays, but I think it's still sort of a taboo concept in a lot of ways in the Southeast Asian region, and I would dare say the whole South Asia subcontinent. What happened, and there are 3 aspects that I want to present. One is the social aspect. The fact that the very first time that I brought pads to school, because I knew I would be menstruating, my bags were basically opened by the boys in the classrooms, and they would basically throw around my pads. And now that was an announcement that I was menstruating. And it basically deeply embarrassed me to my core, because now these young boys who did not know that they're sort of, you know, trifling and they're sort of game and teasing were actually affecting me as a person, that I now have to hide even more of the fact that I have this biological cycle that is actually, you know, something that is very normal among young girls at that age. And the fact that they threw it around the room and basically show it to everybody, even the teachers, seeing it, I was red, because they were doing that while I was not there. And so it kind of, there was this sense of violation of privacy that kept on going, because I was also basically taught to hide this fact that I was menstruating, that menstruation was something that's, you know, dirty, it's something that's, you know, just frowned upon, even though it's a natural bodily function. So there's that social aspect, that women have to grow up learning that they need to hide themselves from the society, and every part of their body or every part of who they are is not quite accepted. And I think this you know, extend to all people who menstruate. The other part of this is, you know, So economic side of things, pads are so expensive. It is one that in some countries, especially in the US and Canada, it's actually considered luxury goods. And I'm like, how is that luxurious? Like, what makes it luxurious that we need to pay? You know, there was a study that Canada had done. Women in a whole lifetime would have to spend over $6,000 on pads and menstrual products alone. And that, I think, is a very, very conservative number. So again, so many food desert, and food desert means, you know, other hygiene products are also not something that's accessible. So that means menstruation poverty is happening everywhere, not just here or not just in the global south, but even in the global north. The only country that so far has made menstrual products something that is freely available everywhere is Scotland. And that speaks volume to how much we prioritize people who menstruate, even though this is the process of giving people's life. This is a process of repopulating the earth. When we're also, you know, lacking workers, and when we have aging society all over. And so this is the economic side of things that we already talked about, you know, initially, about capitalism controlling women's health and people who menstruate, the reproductive system itself. The other thing is also, you know, political in a sense that is personal to me. In various meetings that I've been to, there were a certain time that I was asked, are you PMSing? And that was like a blow to my face. Why is a woman, or why is a person, you know, who menstruate, who's known to menstruate, being passionate about something have to be tied to us being hormonal, when in fact, both men and women and all genders actually go through a hormone cycle. Men just go through 24 hours hormone cycle, but we have to go through a month of hormone cycle, which goes up and down, up and down. But that does not mean that we cannot be passionate or logical or understanding or compassionate or empathetical. It's just, it misplaces our value and our contribution to the society. And I'll end it there. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that was nice. Sorry, I also like, I can't keep my reaction. Like, dude, that's hell like discrimination. But I also would like to, yeah, you know, this is intertwined to what I will gonna point out. Yes, and yes, thank you for that, Yasmin. You really enriched the idea that I was thinking about, because this discrimination could link to our mental health, right? We feel like if we raise these issues, we are being manipulated, and at the same time, we are being labeled as lunatic for talking about these things. For instance, in one of the congressional session, they talk about menstrual leave, and there was this former senator who said that it's an overreacting leave. You know, like, how come? Like, and he's a dude, you know, like he's a guy, very patriarchal. I feel like you do not have the right to say that the menstrual leave is an overreacting bill for women, because you, for one, is not a menstruator. So how can you even say that? At least have a dialogue with us. And second, he was like pointing that, yeah, it's good, but it will make women more jobless. But come on, in the Philippines, we already have the reproductive health law. So like, we just have to talk about it on a deeper level and for us to understand it. And yes, you are mentioning about PMS, right? And that's also affect our mental health, because you know the hormones that are bugging inside our head or like in our body, that makes us react to like even little things, like even for food. You know, there are times that we want to crave for something, and there are times we don't want to eat this, we don't want to smell this, all the stuff. And it is already a struggle in internally. It's already an internal struggle. And here comes other people, especially men who are not menstruating, because there are men who are menstruating, right? For some reasons, medical reasons. And here comes them telling us that we are being overreacted. We are being overreacting to these issues, or labeling us that, oh, you might be having a mood swing again and all the dramas like that. Yes. So I would like to emphasize how this discrimination on menstruators are actually impacting our mental health. Second, I want to talk about the climate issue. Since the COP28 is nearly coming, sometimes it is not being talked about, right? Actually, I'm also in a conference in the Philippines, local youth conference for just transition, and we were talking about, there was this certain participant that in his school, there was this participant that in his school, they are distributing free menstrual pad. However, they have to stop it for the very reason because the issue of disposing the menstrual pad become now an environmental issue. And I don't know if maybe there are efforts, but I believe that it is not a mainstream that for us women to have access to organic, or environmental friendly menstrual pads. And there are also alternative like menstrual cups, but we don't know, are these menstrual cups lead free, or are these menstrual cups do not impose health issues on our reproductive health? Those questions, and these are things that we do not talk about. Yeah, if
Right.
even, or if we talk about this, maybe just few people, it is not being mainstream, it is not being talked in public, this is not even talked about in the parliament or in the Congress or even in the Senate. So the issue is always like internal, personal, grassroots level. So yes, so again, I would like to emphasize that the discrimination and the lack of the awareness on the issue of menstruation that leads to discrimination and the likes affects our mental health as well as the climate issues. Yeah,
Thank you, Sal. Thank you. It's very diverse discussion, and also we have now discussed menstruation. It's how menstruation is related to our social issue, our political issue, like Rohingya genocide and climate issue, mental health, and we have covered almost all the questions. So I would like to ask, could you please discuss the concept of resilience and also the importance to overcome obstacles as a menstruator and also as a non-menstruator? Yes. Ula, can you please start first?
Sure. Thank you, Phoebe. I think so. There was I think this is an example that I'm going to use, but it may seem sad, but it is something that the community has to do in order to survive. So in Cox's Bazar, where majority of the Rohingya are seeking refuge, over 1.5 people living there now after fleeing the 2017 genocidal campaign by the junta and other actors. What happened was there were many groups from international humanitarian organizations who went to the ground and did not do a need assessment on the women and what they need or what their menstrual culture was like. They were just imposing this Western idea of what women need and how the society works. did not do any research back in the background, went in and directly distributing pads to people, did not think about the sustainability either. They went and they distributed the pads knowing that these women will not have money later on if they stop distributing pads one day, and they would not have the ability to actually buy these pads. So meaning they're going to be in menstrual poverty. What happened was the women, having their own means of actually dealing with their menstrual health and their cycle every month, actually sold these pads in the market, in the nearby market outside of the camps. And those who actually went to the ground around that time saw those pads being sold, and they were like, what happened? Why don't they want to use pads? And then we're sort of seen as, you know, the Rohingya women are sort of seen as like, oh, someone who are not grateful, or were framed as people who just are too backward to understand why, you know, or how to use pads or how to actually be sanitary. But the fact of the matter was, these women had to choose what they would actually use in order to, you know, deal with their cycle or feed their family, because the ration in the camps were only rice and lentil and oil every single day, no other food. And then, you know, people think that Rohingya refugees are living in luxury. We're not. And that's the issue. People don't understand that humans cannot live on rice and lentil and oil. And so these mothers who are menstruators go out and sell those pads in order to buy small fish to feed their children, because those are the things that actually help children development, help them deal with malnutrition that is rampant all across the camp. So this is the resilience of women when we're not given the resources. This is the resilience of people who menstruate, because if we can't use pads, if it's too luxurious, we're going to find other things to actually use. We're going to deal with it. That is, you know, that is something that people, I think, globally need to learn. How adaptive, you know, menstruators are. When we don't have access, when we don't have resources, we're going to innovate in some other ways. There are now women in the camps who actually sew a kit together, basically making pads, you know, cloth pad. I'm so sorry, I can't speak today. But basically they're sewing that and selling it in the market. And that's another, you know, example of resilience. It's just that people need to come into our communities with an understanding that they should learn first. You know, not only learning about our barriers and bringing their Western understanding of what menstruation means in their own society and their, you know, purity culture, but actually learn from us about how we've innovated in the past and how we're continuously living today, meeting all of these resource needs, you know, by basically trying to get out of it through finding alternatives, finding other ways to actually continuing to live, and actually then offer, you know, their help, offer a sustainable solution to us. So that is where I'm going to end. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yasmin. So, Sal, would you like to continue with the discussion? How would you like to encourage?
Yeah. That was heartbreaking though, what she was sharing. Yes, actually, the most resilient people are actually the women who are experiencing menstruation, right? Because, you know, in Mindanao there are armed conflicts, and at the same time there are also there is also what do you call this, climate issues, for example floods, rain, and that. And menstruators are finding ways on how to actually address this issue in their own personal level. Yeah, like for instance, how do you call this? The sewing or the using of old clothes as a way to replace menstrual pad is one, because most of the time in the relief goods operations, there are no menstrual pads that are included, you know. And then second, in times of calamity or conflict, it's impossible for you to actually to have access on this menstrual pads. And I think what I wanted to point out here is that in terms of resiliency, it is important that we have a group that support us, that validates our we have a group that validates what we are going through, what we experience is not an act, or it's not fictional, but it's really a reality. And it's what we are going through is also a health issue, a social justice issue, and so on and so forth. I think that's it. Um, it is also important for us to build a community that celebrate this issue rather than see it as dirty or shameful. Thank you.
Thank you, Sal, for mentioning about group support that is needed to assist and overcome the obstacles and challenges we are facing. And then now we are entering our last question. So if you have, for our audience, if you have any questions, you can also ask in the group chat, and then we will pick some of the most important question, and then our panelists will answer it for you. So the last question is that what kind of advice or recommendations do you like to give to individuals who are facing menstruation related barriers, or groups who are striving to make a difference in this field, like about menstrual justice? So Ula has already mentioned it in her previous answer that she would like the NGO and CSO to make a analysis and on ground analysis, and really make assessments to what's the actual needs for the grassroots people. So what about 𝗕𝗏 and Sal? How would you like to advise and encourage individuals who are experiencing the menstruation barriers, and then who are also groups who are also working to get menstrual justice?
Okay, let me go first. I have 3 points to raise. I think it is important, first and foremost, as a menstruator or non-menstruator, it is important for us to understand how the body works, understand what are these impacts on health, understand how it shapes someone's behavior just because of this. And yes, understand the aspect of this. Second, we need to talk. We need to talk. So like we need to talk with fellow menstruators. And then if we are able to talk about it, we can come up with a group. So it's somehow like organizing together, just like what we are doing right now. And then later on, we will tap those progressives, non-government organizations or civil societies, and or start a talk about in school, because the school is actually, science is part of the curriculum, and we can also start talking in there. And then if we are coming up together, it is also important that we tap those people who are not menstruating, especially men, because if it's only like, if we are going to put the issue only among the circles of women, we cannot move forward. But we have to include the males, we need to include as well the government, those government that we think who are open to our ideas, to this kind of issue. And then from there, we can come up with our, data, and then we can come up with narratives, and these narratives could be backed up with policies. And eventually, it would be also part of the narrative of our nation. And if there is an existing law that would back up the issues that we started from understanding, it would, radiate. It would be easy for us to demand, especially to the capitalists, to create not just menstrual pads, but also those you know menstrual what do you call this, kits, or those stuffs that we can use that are not harmful to our health, not harmful to the environment, and affordable to the people. Lastly, it is also a way to actually, for other sectors, or the labor sectors as well, or the corporations who are hiring labor forces, to understand that this issue is also important to the labor sectors. This is important to the production, to the market, you know? And if we have a consensus of understanding this issue, it wouldn't be difficult. It wouldn't be like, a, it wouldn't be like you are fighting it all alone. It would be like a collective that is caring not just to the menstruator, but again to the family and the whole society. That's how I could say it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sao. Your advice and recommendation is very comprehensive, and so I would like to ask 𝘕𝑰𝑛 if you have anything to add on.
Yes, first of all, what Yasmin said it before, because I haven't been to Cox's Bazar, but I was in 𝘕𝗟𝗄𝗧 in Rakhine in 2015, and I mean the same typical concept of the Western ideas that they, without understanding the local culture, which also happened in IDPs in Kachin and other area as well. They just put straight up this Western ideology of like, okay, I mean it's still based on purity, right? Go clean yourself, it's clean. And there are rumors came out, and some of the local people, like my people that I have walked before in the past, are saying that like the Rohingyas are privileged and they have all these access, and then they are ungrateful that they are selling these pads in street market for INGO pad, with so that blah blah, making benefits out of it. So I was just like, well, you don't understand the situation. So I didn't know detail about what Yasmin said, but I talked to the people on the ground. I had the concept of like, just like Yasmin said, in order to survive, you have to basically just to sell it. Otherwise, you can survive on this, like certain things. So for me, first of all, it should be, I mean, it's still a long way. It should be a system or a government, the system that basically provides it's a basic human rights thing, right? Sanitary pad or tampons or anything, it depends on your choice, should be in publicly available in like Scotland and have it, but also some countries in Scandinavia, but it's still not widely available even in developed Western countries. Forget about Africa or Asia. It should be that way. And second of all, I was just saying that as a man, I don't think I have a say in this, but I was just arguing this thing that I mean, I'm sure people who know better than also discuss further about the menstrual leave, right? So it's yes, but the thing is, the decision-making politicians are mostly men, so they always come up with this like capitalist agenda, right? For example, like, oh, okay, then women not get a job, but my understanding is that you have to discuss with women, and and then like how to listen to their voice and plan and just do this. Otherwise, you, for example, like you make a decision, okay, menstrual leave, like 1 day a month, something like that, but it should be on, to me, case by case basis, right? Like because each one of is different. Even men were different. So definitely women are different, So, and that's why I said the argument before that my female friends and close ones said that, right? For example, one of them even told me very, very strongly saying that we are not like, how can I say, like not dysfunctional, there are some people who can still work, there are some people, so it should be something like that. But better than that, it should be more about, how can I say, the more understanding, the awareness raising, and a proper like a SRHR issue, I would say. that a system that create equality, like, you know, both women, men, transgender, everyone, you know, it's just that on the base needs, right? If you have this issue, then you should work on that. That's what I will say. Yeah, I mean, I would just say that, I mean, that's the most, how can to create a surrounding society for everyone, you know, that lives here. Then basically male politician, capitalist, mostly males, making decision on, like, you know, how on woman's body, you know, and like that, what to do this, you know, like making a decision, that more engagement, inclusivity. I know it's still a long way, but we have to keep fighting, right? That's what we're all doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gomin. And Yasmin has already mentioned her advice. So any last word?
Yes,
Yes,
I
please.
think, thank you, Phoebe. I think the last thing I wanted to say is just to underscore what Sal was saying, a lot of menstrual products actually have PFAS in them. And PFAS, although have been banned in a lot of, you know, cookware or in other, you know, sort of containers, it's still not banned in menstrual products, actually causing cervical cancer, causing other, you know, health issues and reducing our immune system or bodily function. And that actually underscore not only the climate aspect of this that Sao has already talked about, but also highlight the fact that we're still discriminated against in this sense of, you know, lack of research and lack of care that goes into the products that we have to use every single month, that half of the population of the earth actually requires. It is part of a necessity. And so in the end, I'd like to just say that, you know, menstrual justice is not just justice for women, but it is a social justice. It is intersectional justice. It's also, you know, part of human rights. It's as important as right to life, because this is, you know, the system that creates menstruation is actually, you know, the reproductive health. It's the reproductive system. It's the system that actually, you know, create the sanctity that is human life. And so the right to life shouldn't just be the right to life at the survival level, the right to life as just living, but the right to life as thriving with quality of life, which means that we need to think about menstrual equity. And, you know, it should be regardless of our biological or bodily function or our needs because of it. So I'll end it there. Thank you.
Thank you, very inspiring answer, Ms. Ular. Now we are concluding our sections, our panel discussion for today, and we have already discussed about how menstruation is related and has impact on our social, cultural. Sal, you have raised your hand. Do you have anything?
I saw something on the comment that says that menstrual leave is not effective, and it has been like, you know, it has been proven that it causes joblessness to the women. Am I right? Is it
So
in the
that's
comment
true.
section?
Yes.
Yeah, in the chat, I think yes. Well, that narrative that menstrual leave is causing joblessness to women is actually backing up the capitalist perspective of labor and gender inequality. Because like what Min said a while ago, not all women wanted to have leave when they have menstruation, right? Because they think they are capable to do their job. But what about those people who are experiencing cramps? Are you not going to give them a leave? So that's the question that I would like to raise. Because if we are going to amplify that the menstrual leave is actually causing joblessness, although yes, there are studies on that, but we also have to take note. Who is the proponent of this study? What is the purpose of this study? We also have to have a comprehensive narrative to understand this, because you know, one of my friends are working in in a certain organization. They have menstrual leave, and it didn't, you know, cause joblessness to them. So it you know, like what Yasmin was saying that we need to go to the ground and understand the context and all of this. With all of this diversity, I'm sure we can find a consensus to how actually apply menstrual leave effectively while not amplifying the perspective of the capitalist. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have I am just about to read the message. So before, I would like to wrap up a little bit that our recommendations from our past include: we have to decolonize when thinking about accessing providing menstrual aids or seeking menstrual justice, and also we have to dismantle the capitalist idea of providing or having equal rights as a menstruator and non-menstruator, and also considering different aspects of the issue by understanding it as a biological and health issue, and it's not only limited there but also extended to political, social, and other economic issues. So there are a few interesting questions in our chat box, but I would like to pick the most interesting one, which is one of our participants asks that there has been the dilemma between discrimination and privilege. Sometimes when we ask about menstrual leave, people said, you said it is normal, but why would you like to have a privilege by requesting menstrual leave? If it is normal, if it is a thing to if it is a natural thing, you think you are equal, you are not filthy, or you are not vulnerable, but why would you like to have a privilege? Because they see it, most people who ask this kind of question see it as a privilege. So how would you like to respond to that question? Would you like to consider it as a privilege, or would you like to consider it as a discrimination? And then the question continue: what if, because women ask for menstrual leave, what if the companies and the organizations do not want to employ women because they have to get more leave or something like that? So would you like to answer? I think Sao has already have enough answers, so I would like to give the chance to Go-min and Miss Ula.
I think Go-min maybe should go first, because I've gone first many times. I need to give you the opportunity to
Mute. Well, I mean, like I said, right, it has to be basically based on women, you know, like I have to talk, and especially because right now all decision makings are done by male politicians, or I mean, even in, let's say, in employers, right? Most companies in general, or whatever it is, INGO, mostly are men. So they make this like a tone deaf, like a arrogant decision, like, okay, no leave at all leave, right? It has to be like base need. I mean, that's my understanding. And I'm not saying that, first of all, I'm not mansplaining. I have no say in that, but I support, for me, like it's equally needed, right? Because if you have something, if you need something, it should be there. It's, you know, like women, men, you know, all human beings same, has to be treated. But this diverse, this criteria that divided, that men already got since born as a man, privilege, that already, you know, get all these like opportunities, or not opportunities, of course, and also all the like, I mean, like, what's it called? You don't have to basically fight for it in general. But for women, that's come this far right now. So to me, yeah, I understand both arguments. Yeah, but also it's capitalist way. But the same thing is that it should be basically, you know, just like very important to engage directly with women, and then listen, and then should be done by that thing. It's not like, but what I've seen right now, mostly it's like, for example, like Sao said, right? Some organization that your friends, you know, are like doing this, and some don't do that. But the argument came, you know, like, of course, what I've talked, it's mostly women. I don't talk to men because, you know, there are very few men that I can talk about in my circle, and I don't engage with them. I engage with them in some ways. So women said that it should be like, this is the way because it's our body, and then they know better, but not like so. For me, it should be created. I mean, just like I said, discuss and the base need, access needs. Also, at the same time, what we have seen, right, especially in Global South, it's this pure like putting this Western idea, without understanding the basic ground needs. You have to do this, you have to do this. We also have to basically, decolonize and basically just like, shatter through the ground that it should be base need access. For example, my last one, sorry. There's in certain community, religious community, that they don't feel comfortable using pad or tampon, for example. But the Western INGOs, they don't understand. They have this concept of just giving them, First, you need to understand awareness raising training. And same thing like Jasmine said before, you will be there for your project 6 months, 1 year, and then you will leave. What if the project, the funding stopped? How are they going to survive? It's just like it's the same thing, right? So I mean, I will say that these are my my 2 cents, that I'm going back to the same thing again, because that's what I believe we should do, and engaging as a privileged male in this discussion. Thank you very much, and also Thank you.
Thank you, Gomin. And what about Ula?
I have a very pointed question then. If taking leave for menstruation is considered privilege or a privilege, then is menstruation a privilege? Would those people who ask that question like to go through menstruation, or going through bad sort of menstruation? Would that help? Should we try that machine that actually helps, what is it called, simulate the experience of cramps while women actually go through menstruation, or those who menstruate go through menstruation? Why don't we try that, and let's see how long you last?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Yasmin. I'm really fascinated by your
great
answer.
Yeah.
We should really invent that machine, I guess.
There is one, Phoebe. There is one. It actually goes around.
I think we
there
need
is one.
to invest on it.
Yeah, so it is very interesting and also inspiring panel discussion. I'm really thankful to you all for participating in this. And now, after discussing with you guys for this morning, I have noticed that we have to consider one thing, which is intersectionality, like male engagement, fellow women's support, the involvement for different backgrounds and stakeholders, and also I really feel like menstruation is not only, we should not see menstruation as a as a burden, but as a resilience, where women has withstand the hurt, the pain, why they are dealing with the circumstance of the family issues, the social issues, and the political issues. This is our resilience. We have to be proud of it. And then, so thank you so much for listening.